Thank you for coming to the Osterville Annual Village Library meeting for the OBA. I appreciate everyone showing up. It's going to be a good meeting tonight. First on the agenda, Secretary's report. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Move it be accepted.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Secretary report is accepted. Now, Treasurer's report.
Okay, the association, we have 2 bank accounts. Our general checking account, savings account, which we have earned some interest on. And our account, which is used just for doing stuff that the club does, you know, like, events, gifts, that kind of stuff. So in the checking account right now, we have $3,486.73. I was just giving a couple bills by Nancy here, so I wasn't gonna say that we didn't have any bills with everybody, we obviously do. Our fund, the Robert Smith Fund, that's a fund which is used, that we do stuff for town events, scholarships, that stuff. It's $19,214.31. And our third account is in a money market fund, earning about 4% right now. $2,986.31. So all total, $25,000.
Any questions on the Treasurer's report? Motion to approve. Have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Gail, MBTA report.
As chairman of the Osterville Business and Professional Association for the 2025 fiscal year, I am submitting our annual report for the year ending May 31st, 2025. This will be the last time I'm doing it. Next time it's Cindy's responsibility. Report, the balance in Rockland Trust as of June 1st, 2024 was $4,834. Income $28,426. Expenses $29,684. The closing balance on May 31st, 2025 was $2806.94. A detailed report as of May 31st, submitted by Pat Grelton, the former OBPA treasurer, is attached. We thank Pat for all of her assistance as our past treasurer and wish her the very best in her retirement from Rockland Press. The Christmas charities. This fund is a combined OBA-OBTA effort headed up by Bruce Williams. We were pleased to be able to donate $4,000 each to the Salvation Army and the Cape Cod Times Neighbors Fund this year. Incidentally, this is the last year Bruce is going to take part in this, and we thank him for doing this for the past 25 years. He's been taking the time to do it. The OBA scholarship was chosen son Bell of Osterville was this year's well-qualified recipient of our $1,500 scholarship. We wish him the very best with his education. Our annual OBPA meeting was held on June 3rd with Mark Ells, Barnstable Town Manager, as a guest speaker. We thank all the Barnstable departments and the COMM Fire Department for their help during our various celebration days. Our 56th annual Christmas open house and stroll will be held on December 12th this year. Please join us, especially around the crash at 6 p.m., which will be preceded by a Christmas decorated golf cart parade down Main Street at 5:30, escorting Santa on the COMM fire truck. Steering committee. A list of the new OBPA officers and steering committee members for our fiscal year 2026 is attached. We welcome Cindy Cotton of the Osterville Village Library as the new steering committee chairman as of June 1st, 2025, along with Beth Serpina of 5 Days Bistro and Crisp as vice chairman, Allie McIntyre of Rockland Trust as treasurer, and Martina Meal of Beacon Gardens as secretary. And on behalf of all the members of the Osterville Business and Professional Association, I ask for your continued support as we attempt to keep the wind farm off of Dowses Beach, and as we try to keep Osterville the village we have all enjoyed and loved for many years. Thank you. the new OBPA chairman.
Thank you, Gail, and for everything that you've done over the years and for helping Cindy get on board. But this is, you've done an outstanding job and everyone here appreciates how much you've done. So
Thank you, I've enjoyed it.
And continue to help us on these events.
I'm not able to get out of it, I'm afraid.
Okay, next on the agenda, our guest speaker, we're waiting for Chief Jean Challies from the Town of Barnstable Police Department. So we're gonna hold on that. I'm gonna go to the town council's report. John?
Thanks, Pete. First, I want to thank Gail for all the years. How many years, Gail, do we know?
35.
35
Wow.
years. Since I've been here, 26, 27 years, she's been in charge of almost everything as far as what goes on here for recreational activities and village activities. And so she's done a terrific job. So we're going to miss you. So.
I haven't left, she's great.
I'm gonna go through a number of items real quickly. I'll take questions at the end. Just give you an idea of what's happening at the council and a few other details going around. For more information on a detailed basis, there's a clipboard going around with my town, to sign up for my town email, or my town, let me put it to you, my periodic newsletters. And those are much more in-depth about a lot of the issues that we're dealing with. So I suggest signing up for that if you got a chance, if you're interested in what's happening in the village. First, we've got planning and zoning in the town. We got the local comprehensive plan, which will come up for a vote this coming next Thursday, a week from today. And it's a 10-year plan for all of Barnstable, has been developed for the last 2 years now. It's a document that used to be put together by each of the villages about where they wanted to see growth, recreation, a number of issues, and the town has taken it over from the villages in the last few years, and that is coming up for a vote. What is not in the LCP is important. The initial draft had two major recommendations that would have altered the nature of Osterville. It proposed to change zoning to, quote, develop and redevelop our village centers. That would include things like increasing building height by right, reducing the requirement to provide parking, and all the things that are now causing Hyannis residents serious concern about overdevelopment. That would have come here and a number of other small villages. That village center development proposal included the initial LCP draft from the Cape Cod Commission, not from the people. There was no call from the residents of Osterville to change our village center, and there was no call for a change from residents of Barnstable Village either. Final draft of the LCP coming for the council no longer contains that call for village center development. Instead, it recognizes the historic nature of our village centers and calls for preservation. I credit the OVA and in particular Bruce Cole for and many residents who took the time to speak up on this issue. This is very important for our village. There's ideas that we should have no extra parking and 3 stories in our buildings throughout the village. It just didn't make any sense. But this is sort of the way that the state is pushing us and the Cape Cod Commission. So we were successful in leading the effort to knock that out of that document. Second change that is not in the final LCP is the Cape Cod Commission called to change zoning within a half mile around our village centers from single family zoning to multifamily by right. So any home around the village within a half mile, which is then almost at the end of Bay Street, halfway down Wiano, just a circle, say, around the flagpole, would have had the developers or investors could buy homes there and monetize them at a much higher value than somebody with a mortgage could do by renting short term. So that has been removed from that document also. Again, people have never asked for that. Surveys showed single family housing was the #1 type of housing people wanted more of, not to undo our single family neighborhoods. Okay, the draft housing production plan, which is a production plan put out by the Cape Cod Commission, is not on the next agenda, but will be very soon. It's almost the same type of document from the Cape Cod Commission, which is a state-appointed commission. It has no public support. Had the same density recommendation when it came to the council. It also lacked focus on targeted ways to develop the kind of housing community needs. Months ago, the council sent that plan back to the planning board for an extensive rewrite. It's now on its way back to us with those concerning provisions removed. Again, I appreciate the OVA and others speaking up on these issues. These documents are very close. One comes from the Cape Cod Commission, one comes from the town. A lot of this stuff is being pushed from above and through the state, through the Cape Cod Commission, in a belief that densifying our little quaint villages will be something good for our community. And I don't believe that's something that is true. Related to planning development, this year I was a member of 2 ad hoc committees, one on zoning and one on housing. On zoning, we principally looked at recent zoning changes in Hyannis. We came up with a series of recommendations aimed to satisfy concerns. We were hearing from the people of Hyannis about overdevelopment and congestion. If you know anything about that, they're going 4 stories in the middle of Hyannis. We had a subcommittee and we did some tweaks to that, decided that 4 stories is too much, and we're gonna go back down to 1 parking spot per unit, not per bedroom, per unit. And we saw that as a problem. So we've put a number of amendments together. Will be coming up on the council agenda next week to push some of the ideas coming out of that committee. Go back to 3 stories, to 3.5, depending on what they do with the top facade. Adding the parking spaces from 1.5 to 2 parking spaces per unit, and also doing some other things in town that we think will be more aesthetically pleasing. On zoning, we principally looked at zoning changes in Hyannis. We came up with a series of recommendations aimed to satisfy the concerns. We were here for people in Hyannis and overdevelopment congestion. On housing, we came up with a short list of recommendations that we considered to be achievable and that would garner public support. I voted against one of those. There's 4 recommendations. One of those is to impose a transfer tax. So when you sell your home, depending on what value is, there'll be a certain value and above. They want to put a tax on that to go to issues with building more housing. I personally don't think that's the way to go. I think that gives incentives for people not to spend more time here, and a lot of people to spend more time in Florida and that kind of thing, and move to Florida. So I just don't think with coming up with our sewage costs coming up, there'll be an override possibly coming forward. And I think that's a lot to ask for people, residents, with our taxes as high as they are right now. So that's one thing I'm against. The rest of the suggestions I won't go over now, but they're palatable to the community. Finally, the town continues to implement its 30-year comprehensive wastewater management plan. The plan is focused on traditional sewage solutions and is designed to address multiple goals and needs of the community, specifically nutrient removal, pond protection, drinking water protection, economic development, and other related concerns regarding wastewater management. To be eligible to secure an interest rate equivalent to a 0% rate, state law requires the town have in place what is called, quote, a flow neutral land use control. Goal of this land use control is to, quote, demonstrate that overall wastewater flow in the sewer watershed will not increase as a result of the project for which a 0 rate interest rate is sought. That's one of the actually better things that have come down from Massachusetts, in my opinion, in a long time. It says we have a problem with sewer. Let's take care of that problem. Let's not build to increase it with high density all over the Cape. And let's fix what we got, fix our waters, and it doesn't open the door to mass development. And I think we've had some issues with that that are going on in Hyannis. So I think that's a good thing that was actually voted in at the last time council meeting. So we are now eligible for loans that are at a 0%, which actually saves millions of dollars over the long term. I supported this policy for eligibility because the point of sewering is to manage our wastewater, protect our environment, not to enable dense development. A few things on public safety. Being high summer, traffic and pedestrian safety are top of mind. Most residents across Barnstable. A few things in the works. I just had a call with Griffin Bowden, who was our engineer, and I just happened to miss him today, about the coming speed bumps and a number of other traffic changes. We've talked about this before. I wanted to get on him and make sure that those are coming as soon as possible. They've already been financed. So we expect that hopefully in the fall, I'm gonna get another talk with him, when I get a chance tomorrow. And then an assessment of traffic on East Bay Road. One of the things we've got funded for the next, capital improvement plan, which went into effect this summer for next year, so the 2026 years already in effect, is to look at East Bay Road and decide whether we do sidewalks on that road or maybe turning it into one-way, considering how much pedestrian traffic there is there. I think we'll have to decide what we want to do with it. I've talked to a number of residents that say that, number one got in an accident pulling out of the driveway. There's a lot of trucks parked on the side of the road for landscaping and that kind of thing. And we're looking for a better solution for East Bay because so many people use it to walk. It's a dangerous city. We've heard good and bad about one way. Two-way would be asking for us to put sidewalks on both sides or one side. And we have a lot of backup on both sides of the street for putting sidewalks in the right of ways that are actually there. Many trees are in those right of ways right now, full grown. A number of stone walls, other things that people put in on the easement that will cause a little disruption with people's property. So there's a choice either between that or another. So we're going to look into that. As for offshore wind, you see the news of late, you're aware of significant changes to offshore wind industry. I'm not going to get into much of that there. I think Suzanne will handle a lot of that. She's the go person on that for our village. I want to make you aware of an additional protection I sought and achieved for the beach at the end of Leano Avenue from being a landing site for offshore wind infrastructure. Public beach, sometimes called baby beaches, as you drive down Leano and don't stop, you're in the water, that's where it is. We already have 97 protections for Dowses, whether those will help us as far as the wind. It is still up in the air, but we also put those in for that beach because Avangrid had actually identified that as a potential landing site for New England Wind 2. So that has been passed and it's in effect now. I asked the legal department to develop language to apply that's called the Article 9 protection to that small beach, and the council adopted unanimously this spring. On the state front, while Massachusetts has selected Park City Wind, which is now called New England Wind 1, which is the one that lands at Craigville Beach. They're working on a contract, negotiations with utilities and Avangrid about that contract has been installed for many months. State also just announced its new offshore wind request for proposal would no sooner than the 2026. That means Commonwealth Wind, which is the Dowses Beach, will not have an RFP to bid into quite some time. And considering the national changes as for wind, that might be a winning ticket for us to not have that coming down the street. From time to time, I include wind updates in my newsletter, so please sign up. That went around on a clipboard. So that's a very in-depth newsletter that comes out periodically, quite once every 2 or 3 months, and discusses these issues at length. My library hours are the first and third Tuesdays of every month from 1 to 2. If anyone wants to come see me and talk to me, I'll be here first and third Tuesday of every month. And that's all I have. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer. John.
When you first started, you talked about the redevelopment of the village center.
Yeah.
Now, is that something the commission can bring back again in the future, or is that kind of be dormant?
Well, they can, the planning board has acquiesced to our demand for them to rewrite those out of the project. This will be voted on in the next month or so. But that doesn't keep another council from coming back and relooking at that. So our elections are in November. It's going to be close elections. We're looking for candidates for certain villages. A lot of people don't want to take on the responsibility, and it's a lot of work, but if you're interested, we have mostly Osterville residents here, but if you know somebody from other villages that would maybe like to run against some of the candidates, that would be a good thing to sort of convince them before September 1st to put papers in, take papers out. And but those things can come back. If it's a zoning change, I think it takes 2 years before it can be brought back for consideration. I'm not sure about I seem to have thought that they can't bring up another issue for 2 years, but I don't want to say that. the front of it. So we've got the planning board sent us back their acquiescence basically to what we asked for them to take out. But they also said in the letter, we agree with the 4 things the council want, but we really suggest that you bring back these 6 other things that we took out. I don't think that was a good thing to do on that document that they did, so the planning board is very adamant on some of these things. So, and that's part of our town, so we've got to keep it on. Yeah. Go ahead, sir. I mean, good to see
This
you.
year, 2025 has been a unique year for us, especially the Barnstable town. Meaning that this area is getting more and more popular amongst the tourists. And one example being the 4th of July weekend, the Dowses Beach, I've never seen so many people, all ages, and they were having a good time. Now, this behoves us to proactively sort of plan ahead from 2-year plan or 5-year plan to sort of modify the road system and pedestrian systems, primarily for the safety of the tourists and the residents. And it's a known fact, number 3, most popular popular destinations in our country, among the citizens of our country and abroad. Cape Cod, Grand Canyon, and Statue of Liberty. So we are proud of where we live. Let's not underestimate our esteemed presence in Cape Cod, that we are all blessed that we live here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree that I brought that up earlier about East Bay Road. There's both sides of that issue. But something needs to be done on that for both pedestrians and people who live on that road, traffic and that kind of thing. So there's, like I said, there's basically 3 options, and I think we'll bring those to the council. I'll bring those to the OBA and have that presented, and people could talk about it, if you're interested in that issue. I think most people think something needs to be done there. We've been talking about sidewalks for years. But we're also getting a pushback on sidewalks, so, so we'll see what is the best way forward. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I think it's, as you come onto Main Street from Parker Street, there's a little rectangle that has beautiful plantings in it. And it's very dangerous because you can't see oncoming traffic coming from the right, even though it's beautiful, and whoever does it does a great job. I wonder if that's something we can address, because it's more a concern about accidents, trying to pull out and take a left. Can't see the oncoming traffic coming from Main Street.
Yeah, I've heard that before also, and EJ Jackstower does a wonderful job of keeping that up for us, and the flag up and down, and just within 3 or 4 months ago, they cut down they lowered all those grasses that were there for the major. It's still a little bit high, but I think it's, well, we may be able to tweak it some more. We'll talk to them about next year, lower plantings maybe, and that kind of thing. There's a couple of boxes, I believe, there's big.
Yeah, there's ornamental grasses that need to.
Ornamental grasses that we've already cut them down, and they come back up, we'll be cutting them down again, because we understand the problem there. That's another thing we're gonna be talking about with Griffin Bowden, the town engineer, who's been at this meeting a number of times, about the speed bumps and the stop signs and everything else. A lot of us believe that there should be some way with at least the speed bumps and mitigating traffic that comes from north of the village through Main Street, and slow it down before it comes to the corner from the old country store. That's a very, very dangerous crosswalk there, and turn onto Bay Street, all kinds of things. So I think one of the speed bumps is planned for that area. A lot of us thought maybe a stop sign would be good near Joan Peters area right there. And there's a crosswalk already there. That's something the town has to search or look into for traffic safety. It takes a long time for them to do that. So I've been pushing that. And so those are some of the things we're going to do. Speed bumps that we've talked about before are incredibly expensive. You don't know why, it's just asphalt and it's not, but the town, it cost them $170,000 to put each one in.
Great, that's great.
That's the state we live in, so. There's curb cuts and other things, but we need, I believe in the village, we could use about 15 of those. Whether down Parker Road, before you come into town, after you go out of town towards Centerville Cut. So those are things that, I'll be pushing the town forward. Hopefully we get the first few coming up this fall. So I agree with your statements. Go ahead.
If you have sidewalks, you don't need speed bumps.
Pardon?
If you have sidewalks, you don't need speed bumps.
If you raise the sign,
If you have sidewalks, you don't need speed bumps.
No, you do. Absolutely.
I'm on Main Street.
Stand out on Main Street during the day.
yeah, try to cross the street on Main Street. It's something.
I see people from Main Street taking a left at Parker the wrong way to avoid taking a left.
Yes.
It's a bad intersection.
Well, that's another thing. I'd ask them to put a big arrow on the ground saying this way off of Parker Street onto Main Street versus the other way.
Oh, that's gonna teach them an arrow. Yeah.
Well, it's directional. There's certain things you can do and certain things you can't. Unfortunately, the town is very, particular about what they can and can't do. And, it's, go ahead, Doc.
How's the playground coming?
Playground is, I've got that. I've got, Mark Marinaccio working on that, and it's going to hopefully start. I've been putting the screws to him this spring. We've been waiting 17 or 18 years for it. The Centerville Centerville Playground has already started, which is, I have no, Centerville needs a playground also. So, it's just a question of, it's in the budget and getting started. So he's gonna be looking for RFPs, hopefully this fall, to get that put in and starting in the spring.
So what is the whole?
Holdup is town of Barnstable, and the slow-footed way they go about doing business.
That the town manager?
Not only him, there's a lot of things,
Pushing it down the road.
yeah, well, there's a lot of things, that are going on in town right now with construction. So, we do have the funding for it. Okay, so, I've been pushing them and you can push them and push them and push them. So I've been continuing to do that on a monthly basis. So look for RFPs this fall and, starting in the spring. Spring and summer.
Is the issue that there are other competing areas that want things done, and so they just kind of prioritize?
They
Or is it-
always prioritize,
So
and
where
we're
does
number 2, I believe, on that list, and, so, believe me, there's nothing, we have been working on this for a very long time, and it's frustrating. And, the more I call them, the more, chances of, squeaky wheel. So I'm doing that as much as I can, and, they at first said we'll be breaking ground this fall, so. Making it clear that I don't want to see it pushed off anymore. Okay, so I hear you.
John's doing a great job in that. Yeah, it's very frustrating to deal with the town. This goes back, John said 17 years.
Well,
It's
is there
gonna-
anything?
It is gonna happen, it's gonna be done.
What can the community do to help support John to get this elevated on their priority?
Tax strike.
Yeah, you can write, Griffin Bowden, and you can also write, Mark Ells. And all the email addresses for towns are like this. My email address is john.crow@town.barnstable.ma.us. So you got Griffin Bowden, you've got, you have a fellow, Chris Ganella. He's the Recreation Department Director.
Okay.
And write all of them, short email, and say, Leonard's our playground.
Can you put those names and addresses in your email?
I will.
That's
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah,
And find them all on the website.
yeah. Yeah, they're all on the town website. So just remember Chris Ganella, Griffin, Mark Marinaccio, Marinaccio. Then look for Mark Ellis.
Up each department, each person's listed in each person's email.
Each person is listed on the town website. It's really easy to find. So please write those letters, say, yeah, we're tired of
I
waiting.
understand though, if it's in the budget, why the hold up?
Because they have, the Office of Design is there's a lot of stuff going on now with hookups for buildings that are going on in Hyannis. It's just extremely busy now. That's not an excuse in my opinion, because we've had this for years. It's time to push it forward. So I've made that clear. I called, those three principals in the last 2 weeks. Do so next week.
So who today we had here,
That was Griffin Bowden, the town engineer.
yeah, and so on the speed bumps, they were talking about one of the things.
Griffin.
And I was actually amazed at the time frame that he gave to put in speed bumps.
Right.
Yes,
In Oyster Harbor, they put them in and take them out.
yeah,
They don't like it there, oh, let's move it.
Private contract.
Yeah.
yeah. But everything goes to the state here and you know how that works. No excuses. I'm just saying, this is what we're dealing with here. It's very frustrating that it costs $170,000 for a stupid speed bump. That's, you know, but you're looking at prevailing wage, you're looking at all this other stuff. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And a playground is gonna be almost $1.8 million. It's huge. Yeah. So anyway.
Any other questions for John?
Go ahead, Marion.
Well, I just wanted to say the other day, since we're talking about traffic, I was really surprised at the number of cars cutting through to avoid the 28 traffic at a high rate of speed. Like I had my car there, so I was watching it. And they were flying through town, you know, so that definitely needs to be addressed, I would say. And I don't know if this is even a possibility, but I do know for safety purposes for crosswalks, sometimes I've seen towns with green crosswalks and they're so visible that I feel like it makes a huge difference in safety when you're trying to cross the street. So it's just a little suggestion, but the number of cars, it was a steady stream and high would probably come about 3:30 on. They're cutting through to avoid 28. They're cutting right through town, right through town.
South Main Street.
Yeah, right through town. I mean,
That's a question after the chat.
Yeah.
okay, so just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and I believe,
Because I think that's gonna get
I
worse.
believe the crosswalk right in the middle of the village is going to be raised. And somewhat like, the ones in, Barnstable Village and Marshall's.
Let's do slow.
Not the height, but a decent height. We're aware that, we've been aware of the traffic, we've talked to the chief for a number of times, and, what they have is a roving force that goes around one village to the next and all right around. And you just get in line, they come back and they do enforcement. And it's not like though we can have enforcement every week. Okay, so that's what they do. They do it on a round the horn basis with every village. That's the way the police department works. Go ahead.
I'm gonna, ask, Steve Challies when she gets there, but they don't do that in the center of Osterville. You know that I would look through that window where I work, and you know that they go right through that, I've said it numerous times, they go right through that stop sign, and where's the police? They're at the water department, because they wanna catch them speeding, coming into town, not the poor little woman that wants to cross in front of Kinley Grover, so that she can go to Penn Devion and get a cup of coffee. They're not even with Joan Peterson. Sometimes they might hit the fire station, but they're not in town. They're not gonna catch anyone if they're not in town. We've had a meeting, for lack of a better term, parking attendant, whatever you wanna call her. And she said, oh, I've been doing this for 5 years. And I said, you haven't been doing it here for 5 years, because I've been looking up this one for 20. I said, I saw you drive by at 9:35, and then you came back this way, and she's like, oh my God, you're right.
I agree with that. For some reason, they don't like to set up right in the middle of the village. I would think a motorcycle policeman can do that much easier than a car policeman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would be good.
I brought that up, brought it up.
Should be asked.
8 weeks, July and August, John.
Yeah.
You know, it's not up to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we love the tourists, we love the summer. It is so busy. We need somebody just walking downtown. I think it's the summer. In training, police, they were in the yellow shirt. They were very nice.
Yeah, save those questions for chief.
She is on her way, the chief. So. Yeah. John, thank you very much.
One possible solution would be to sort of explore explore this I would say possibility there to install closed circuit TV. And based upon most of the roads are state roads, so we have to sort of confirm and sort of find out if it's possible to install closed circuit TV. You need to have a sign that closed circuit TV ahead. So automatically the motorists will be sort of, at least they'll put their foot on the brakes. But then one has to sort of explore, really sort of violate a personal sort of, will be some kind of issue which will violate the motorists. That their car is going to be spotted by the cheaper camera. So in Europe, they have strict standards. And they do get fined by mail. So one doesn't need a policeman to sort of monitor the traffic.
Yeah, I understand, but at this point, I don't think it is allowed in the state photo enforcement.
That's correct.
Yeah, and, 1 second, and I also was interested, I read the journal the other day, and, they have an interesting thing they're using is a noise photo enforcement. So it registers the decibels of all these vehicles that go by, takes a picture of the license plate, and actually sends them a ticket for over 85 decibels. Thought that was interesting, because I sit in my yard, I see guys coming flying up, but that'll cause an issue, but, ma'am, you had a question?
Yeah. I'm just wondering if the speed monitoring signs.
Yeah.
If they would be beneficial coming into town from 28 and maybe coming in from Centerville on Main Street.
Yeah.
There's one in Centerville on Penny's Lane that always reminds me to slow down.
We have one, I believe. Right, from Centerville. There's one on the right side, just before you get to Old Mill Road in that area. And I don't know about coming forward, I haven't seen that coming down from 28 yet.
Yeah, but the traffic that's
Yeah.
zipping down from
Yeah.
28.
There's a permanent one, across from, Gardner on South Main, isn't it?
Yes, that's what.
Does it, would that take the photographs?
No, it doesn't take photographs.
Can't do photo enforcement in Massachusetts.
Can't do that in Massachusetts. And
They did it in Arizona for a while. I got caught twice within 15 minutes. Yeah, and, the week after I paid my tickets, they decided, the legislature out there decided to do away with it because people were so angry about it.
Did you get a refund?
No, I did not get a refund, Hector, but thanks. I was so angry. All right.
John, thank you very much for everything you do. I appreciate that. Especially for the Article 97, but, you know,
Maybe beat you.
thanks.
Thanks, John.
Okay, next on the agenda, the OBA, vote on the board, nominees. The board of directors will nominate the following to be elected as directors for 3-year terms, 2025 to 2028. They are Suzanne Conley, Mark Curley, Hector Gunther, and Chuck Savage. I would make a motion to accept these these people for this term. Second. The second, any discussion? All those in favor? Great, thank you. Suzanne is next.
Oh, okay. Um, So, Pete asked me to do an update on Save Greater Dowses Beach, which I'm thrilled to do with this wonderful group this evening. We are approaching our third anniversary in a few weeks. 3 years we've been at this. I really want to acknowledge Stacy Gunther, who's in the audience over there. She and I co-founded that group in 2022. We were sitting on the beach doing so. So she works very hard every day to keep the community aware of our efforts. We recently seated the 2025-2026 steering committee. Besides myself, it includes Jerry Blakely, Stephen Driscoll, Hector Gunther, Stacy Gunther, Pete Hansen, Chuck Mitchell, Ann Peters, Gary Peters, Nat Pittenger, Bob Schulte, Bob Slater, Paul Sylvester, and Remus Vetus. So I want to thank them for coming to our every other week meeting and helping move our efforts forward. Our core mission remains the protection of Dowses Beach. Although our position has evolved, we oppose landings at Craigville Beach as well. That Avangrid has told the town is scheduled to begin in fall 2026. And we want to do everything within our power to prevent that. We believe as well that these projects do not represent the best way to transition away from fossil fuels in our state and in our nation. Barnstable remains the only municipality in the country facing 3 giant cable landing projects, which would result in 20 miles of extra high voltage duct banks under our public roads, 3 or more new substations on top of or adjacent to watershed and water resource protection zones, 2,800 megawatts of extra high voltage power that would transform our town, turning it into the electrical outlet for all of New England. Now, 2,800 megawatts is 4.5 times the electrical output of the former Pilgrim Nuclear Power Plant. When I mention that to people, it really helps put things in perspective. Our fight is really staged lately on 3 levels, local, state, and federal. Here in Barnstable, we remain in Barnstable Superior Court with a goal of overturning the Article 97 easements that were granted to use Craigville Beach to land 2 of these extra high voltage cables. There would be 7 in all if Avangrid had their way. Recently, SGDB launched a citizens task force to monitor EMF from the Vineyard Wind project. We are discovering low levels on the beach. We were kind of always concerned about levels of EMF on the beach, but what we're finding out is those cables are buried deep enough. There are 2 of them over there at Cobbles, so that the EMF levels are really either undetectable or pretty low, not higher than ambient EMF. We are, however, finding high levels in the parking lot and very high levels over the 5.3 miles of duct bank that starts at Cobbles and terminates at Independence Drive, right next to Village Green. Avangrid has had as many as 18 turbines out of an eventual 62 operational. I have a spy on Nantucket who looks at the project every day and lets me know how many turbines are spinning. So the high number was 18, then it went down to 13, then it went down to 9 and 2 and 0 for 4 days. And now they're starting to come back up. So I have no idea what's going on there, but to me, it's an indicator of the intermittency with which wind power operates. We continue to engage with state leaders, many of whom remain completely supportive of offshore wind projects. Notably, as John mentioned, the utilities, that's Eversource and Unitil, and what's the other one, Hector?
National Grid.
National Grid, sorry. They can't seem to agree on terms of a new power purchase agreement to buy the electricity that would be generated by the 2 cables at Craigville Beach if they have their way. What that says to me is the price point they're quoting is outrageous, and it's getting higher all the time. And of course, like John said, the state just scrapped their plans for a new solicitation of bids from projects that may never be built. We are always engaged in public comment and testifying with the administration and the legislature, most recently in favor of 2 bills by Representative Diggs and Representative Exaros to require greater legislative scrutiny of offshore wind cable landings. And I want to thank right now Representative Exaros, who's standing at the back of the. And we continue to work with a Washington lobbyist to get our message out and to feed information to key members of an administration that absolutely hates offshore wind. I don't know if you've heard. They're throwing darts every day. And we have joined with a large group of groups to file petitions on very sound bases against these projects. Just last week, we wrote a letter of support for a very large fishing industry groups petitioned, that you'll love this, to the Department of the Interior seeking to revoke Vineyard Wind's permit and an order for its dismantlement. Can you imagine? We have yet to hear on the status of SGDB's petition to the EPA for a review of these projects' potential impact on the sole source aquifer. I think one of the most important things I want to say to all of you is the fight is not over. That won't happen until the day Avangrid announces abandonment of their plans for Osterville and Centerville. And I think I'll throw Katuitt, Hyannis in there as well. But between a hostile regulatory environment and a worsening financial situation for this industry, it is facing significant obstacles to doing what the Biden administration wanted, which was to have 50 wind farms out on the outer continental shelf, stretching from Maine to South Carolina. I brought with me tonight these information cards for those of you who are interested. They include sort of the major points we've been making for 3 years. They include our contact information and list ways to help. SGDB will stay the course as long as it takes to protect this precious village and our wonderful town from what we believe are these very poorly conceived projects. And I want to thank everyone who has worked so hard and helped us to achieve our goal.
Stephen, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I would.
We really appreciate, you're an advocate for us. We really appreciate what
Yes.
you're doing.
And that's right from the heart. It's, doing this project, the turbines in the ocean, industrializing the ocean, running those cables through our villages, and then building those substations on top of our drinking water is wrong. It's just wrong. So common sense says that's wrong. But I have to say, Suzanne, Stacy, Hector, and all of you, that thing would have kept going if you didn't start fighting. You did. And I'm so proud of it. So I am the Barnstable State Representative for the 5th District, which is West Barnstable, Marston's Mills, Sandwich, and Bourne. I don't have this area, that's Rep Diggs. But I just wanted to say really thank you. What you did really had an impact. Now it's up to the state to listen. So that's why those 2 bills that have been filed are very important. Remember, I filed them last time, but they were too late. There's a certain time period when you file bills, and if it's after that, they're still there, but they don't choose to hear them. Remember, they don't want to hear these bills. But now that they're filed timely, they have to. So we had the hearing. That's important. Those of you that came, it was 99 degrees that day in Boston. And I was there. And I'm going to speak from the heart, common sense, supporting both of those bills. Remember, that will set the policy for the state. Unfortunately, in my opinion, Barnstable is the only town in the country that's doing this. Like you said earlier, it's the only town in the country to have 3 possibly massive projects is not right, in my opinion. I'm not against different types of energy, but this is wrong. And I don't want it to destroy our island. This is an island. This is not a city. Offshore wind is a bad idea, in my opinion. So the 2 bills are important. Those of you that have submitted testimony, that's how you do it. All it is an email. And they pile up and we get their attention. And what our hope is that the bills pass, which means two things. One, local input rules statewide. And kind of number two, there needs to be a plan to deal with this stuff. Because look what happened in Nantucket, one blade, what that did. Imagine if and when the others start falling off, or there's a fire or a leak. Or in the, and I'll end with this, the current substation that's there already in Independence Park, next to housing. What if something happens there? Is the Barnstable Village Fire Department ready to deal with that? So I'm pushing the state in many ways. I am a state representative. I was a cop for 40 years, so I heard all your speeding stuff. I could answer all those, but we'll wait for the chief. I just wanted to say thank you, Suzanne, and to you as a town councilor. This work is not easy. I get a lot of hate. I have someone trying to kill me right now. Truly threatening to kill me and drag my dead body through the streets of Hyannis. That is real. It's not funny. He's a felon and he just got arrested for doing it. I'm not gonna put up with that. So I'm here to be your state representative. When it comes to these issues, you should, if you live in Osterville, go to Representative Diggs, but you can also come to me. All right? Anything else?
No.
I appreciate you asking me to say it.
Yeah, thanks for being an advocate. It's amazing what you've done, and that helps us out.
Sometimes it just takes one voice to challenge it. And they have to deal with it. And that's us. All right, thank you.
I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Chief Jean Challies from the Town of Barnstable Police Department. We get a round of applause for the chief.
Right, well, I owe Brad Pizarro's because that was a save. I apologize for having this on my schedule for tomorrow night. No, that's my explanation. I had my dog in the car, I was heading to the dump. So here I am, so I apologize for looking like I was on my way to the dump.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. So also today we had a lot going on at the PD. I don't know if any of you remember that lengthy stand-up that we had back in March of 2024, but the gentleman was sentenced today, so we got to participate in the sentencing hearing today and make an impact statement on behalf of the agency. So that was a big deal for us. So he'll be spending some time to speak for him. So
That's great.
That's great.
He shot how many times at the police?
37 rounds he fired at us. Then interestingly, New Hampshire just ended up in an Osterville shooting, killing somebody who did the same thing. He shot at an armored vehicle and the police actually killed him. So I'm always so proud of the restraint and the discipline and the professionalism that our SWAT team and their officers showed in not having that be the outcome of that incident.
Yeah, so what was the sentence?
I took a 9 to 11 year plea with probation after. So not as long as we wanted, not as long as the Commonwealth had requested, but that was what Judge Buckley felt was appropriate based on a number of circumstances. So we'll work with that and be proud of how we handled it. So thank you for the opportunity. And I know there was a few topics that I was asked to cover in an email, but just before we jump in, I just wanted to say that I'm really proud to announce that we are finally operating with a full police administration for the first time in as long as I can remember at the police department. We have myself, and then there's 2 deputy chiefs and an executive services lieutenant. So we haven't really had a team in administration in a really long time. So this is super exciting. Everything's working smoothly. We're all pulling in the same direction. We work well together. We all balance each other, and that's really a positive thing for the agency. We're able to get a lot done, and that just happened with the last promotions of Lieutenant Kevin Fulham and Deputy Chief Mark Lynn. So that's been great for us.
Good.
And then the other thing is, we're in our first real full year of having the body cameras in operation, and we've had a really, significant decline in the number of professional standards complaints that have been unfounded, which has been great for us. There was a lot of pushback initially with people not really wanting to have them. And now I don't think we have anybody on the agency that's, not happy to be wearing the camera. So they've been great for professional standards complaints. They've also been great because instead of being able to complete an investigation and say that something is not sustained, which basically means you don't have enough evidence to prove or disprove something, you can actually exonerate someone and say, no, that actually did not happen. Or on the other hand, if something really significant does happen, you have your evidence right there and there's no arguing. So they've made life with regard to internal affairs great. They're also streamlining everything for court, which is fantastic. We actually have a program that's on a lot of people's phones now. We're going to be using department issued phones, but there'll be a link available to anybody who has Ring doorbell video or audible files or photographs that they can just send us files directly, and then those files can be shared with the district attorney's office. So there's no more gathering paper evidence, bagging it up out of the records department, stapling those big food, they look like the food bags, and writing the case number on it, signing it out, taking it to court, hoping you get all the pieces back and bringing them back to sign them back in at the end of the day. So that's been tremendous for us. They've been really invaluable. One of the things that was brought up was traffic. So traffic is always our number one complaint. I believe it will always be with all the, the miles and miles of road in the town. So since January 1st to July 31st, we conducted over 5,100 car stops in the entire town. You guys are off the hook because we only conducted 120 in Osterville. So, but we do rely heavily on our municipal road safety grants. We call them the MRS grants, and we got $39,000 this year to conduct several initiatives between April and September with targeted enforcement. So for us, April was distracted driving, which primarily meant use of cell phones. May was seatbelt enforcement, so that click it or ticket campaign was really for secondary enforcement. So if you got stopped for something else and somebody wasn't buckled, we were doing click it or ticket. June and July were speeding, and then August 1st we started a impaired driving enforcement campaign, and that will last through the middle of September. So that allows us to send officers out in 4-hour blocks, and that's their only assignment. They're only doing traffic for that 4 hours. They have to engage a certain number of people. They don't have to write a certain number of tickets, but they have to engage people for the full 4 hours. You can't just, hit tickets for an hour and then be done. You have to engage people for the full 4 hours. And the nice thing is if there's a problem area, they can go, target that area, which has been good for us. We also applied for that grant again for next year. So we've been repeatedly using that money and that grant to facilitate our traffic enforcement. But I know a lot of people have traffic complaints, so I just want to sort of walk you through what you would do if you had a traffic complaint. We've been working really hard to update our website. So now if you go on the Barnstable Police website, across the top right, there is a number of options, and one of them is traffic enforcement. And if you click that, there's a drop-down menu that says submit a complaint. And there's a form there, and that form actually allows you to fill in a bunch of information. There's drop-down menus, so you can file a complaint about speeding, loud mufflers, stop signs, red lights, whatever it is. And there's, in addition to the drop-down menus, there's spots where you can put in a narrative. You can leave your contact information, and that form goes directly to our traffic unit supervisor, Troy. Amazing. So, if you do that, Sergeant Perry will get that too, because a lot of times he'll need to get a little bit more detailed information. But in those narrative sections, you can put I noticed this between 5 and 7 in the morning, or I noticed this between 10 and midnight, something like that. So there's plenty of areas for you to sort of send detailed info. You can also call directly into the traffic office. There's a machine in there. There's also people in there quite a bit. And then you can also call into dispatch. So if it's something emergent, like make sure you call dispatch. But all of the complaints are logged. They keep a spreadsheet. They keep track of every single complaint. And if you leave your contact information, Sergeant Perry will get back to you in order to properly vet the complaint. And then if it's speeding, what they do is they use a covert or overt tracking device to validate the complaint. So if you say, you know, on Weano Ave, there's speeding cars, they'll put a covert or overt device up there to monitor the speed. And if that is validated, they'll send the traffic unit out for a week to do enforcement. And then after that, that address will hit the hot sheet and then all the patrols will get it. So then you'll get the patrols in the aftermath. So it's sort of like a 3 to 4 week cycle where it gets the objective machine read results, then it gets the traffic unit enforcement, and then it gets the patrol enforcement. And then it just sort of stays on the hot sheet. So people know that that's an area that needs some attention. So that's really the best mechanism is the website, because that allows you to provide the most information in your own words. That if you need to call, you can call the traffic office or dispatch. The other thing is, if we notice that there's visibility issues because of hedges or trees or whatever, or there's signs missing or damaged or bent or whatever, we also forward that information to DPW. So we do try to do like a holistic approach for the traffic enforcement. Who else is on my list? Excuse me. So, okay, so one of the other issues was the Oyster Harbor's Bridge. So we did notice that there were some overweight trucks going over the bridge. Some of that, well, most of that was like sand or concrete. So DPW and the police department coordinated efforts to allow the concrete contractors to pump concrete over the bridge. This was off season, so like early spring. However, you know, as the bridge became more active and then it was required that it be open, they were limited to really early morning hours, and then ultimately pumping the concrete over just wasn't feasible. So at the end of May, DPW assisted Cape Cod Ready Mix in getting approval for a waiver to allow specific models of trucks to go over. So DPW and the police department worked together, and they were validating the VIN and the license plates to make sure that the trucks were on the list that were approved, and they were checking everything was fine. So those were the, you know, everything was properly measured and weighed going over the bridge. So we're gonna just work to continue to make sure that they're in compliance, just because we don't want to see any further damage to the bridge. So we know that that was like a bit of a concern, but we're working with DPW and trying to make sure that the bridge doesn't sustain any further damage, and that everybody can agree on how to handle that. The other thing that came up was drug enforcement. So we have seen a really significant increase in the use of illegal narcotics cases, but now the most common drug that we're seeing, once again, it's like for everything from the 1980s is coming back again. Hopefully not like big hair and all the other horrible things from the 80s. I don't want to go back to high school. But it's been crack and crack cocaine. Regular powder cocaine. So it's pretty unusual. Like we've come full cycle here. But fentanyl does still have a pretty big presence here, but instead of powder, it's being pressed into pills. The trouble with the fentanyl is that it can resemble regular pharmaceutical pills, so it's really dangerous.
Or candy.
Yeah, so we're seeing for street drugs, there's a lot of cocaine out there again, but the fentanyl is still a problem because of the mechanism that people are gaining access to it, and that's through pills. It's uncontrolled. You don't know what you're getting when you buy a pill off somebody. and you think you're buying an OxyContin pill and you're buying straight fentanyl. So we have had a number of overdose situations. We're seeing a lot of off-Cape dealers come onto the Cape for distribution because the profits are really high here. They can sell the drugs for a lot of money here. So, that's why they're drawn here. So it's an ongoing problem. We do have an officer that works with the DEA task force. We have a pretty active drug unit here, but, it's gonna just continue to be a battle for us. Whatever we target, they circumvent and come up with another way. So, we are still trying to work on, our drug investigations and trying to combat it. But the fentanyl is scary because people are unwittingly, exposing themselves to really high levels of fentanyl and they're overdosing. One of the other things that we're seeing a real problem with is scams and frauds. So we're seeing a number of creative ways that people are being scammed out of money. I think people have probably here all gotten the one from the Easy Pass.
Oh, yeah.
And there's new ones out there about unpaid tickets, because I keep getting that one on my phone. There's one regarding your driver's license, that your license is gonna be suspended or revoked unless you pay money.
Okay, 3 times a month.
Yeah, there's ones, with, there was just a big story in the news about that group in the Dominican Republic with them preying on older people about having their son, daughter, granddaughter, grandson injured or arrested and needing money. So the biggest thing I can tell you is that they're wildly underreported because people get embarrassed. But the sooner you report, the more likely it is that we can recover the money. Detective Steve Barrett last year was able to recover money from a scam. The gentleman ended up just being in the western part of New York State. However, most of the time, these people are overseas. We're never gonna get the people. But if we can get the money and make people partially whole again, that's really the best we're gonna do on these cases. But that only happens when there's prompt reporting. So I'd much rather have somebody feel a little bit embarrassed and promptly report and get some of their money back than hide it and have their pride intact on the outside and feel horrible on the inside and lose their money. So, it's just really important for people to, be honest and open about whatever's going on with maybe making a mistake, maybe giving somebody a little bit too much information on the phone. I know I had a gentleman call me and ask me for my social security number, telling me I had a warrant out of Texas. I was like, you called the wrong person, buddy. So persistent, and all I could think of was if my mother took that phone call, what would she have said? And it's just really disappointing that there are people like that out there, but they're everywhere. So I just really want people to know that the most important thing is report it as fast as you can, because that's the only way, even with the cryptocurrency. If they can lock stuff down, sometimes we're able to get some money back. There's at the Barnstable Adult Community Center on September 24th. And I know it's the 24th, right? Like I have no credibility dates, but I do know that it's September 24th from 10 to 2. They do the Adult Community Safety Day, and we will have somebody presenting there on scams and frauds. It's really worth it to go to that. Because there's all kinds of information on the most current scams and frauds that are taking place, but also on reporting, because there's information gathering that's taking place by the federal government. And that's how hopefully some of these things can be curtailed, but the police department can't report. The individual has to report. So we give out like a little card that walks you through the steps. They're available at the police department as well, but they walk you through the steps of how to make this report. And then if they're getting a lot of hits on a particular IP address, or they're getting a lot of hits out of a particular location, then they can target that and try to identify who is behind the scam. Because when I hit, an email address to see who's telling me that I just bought a Norton subscription for $699 that I didn't buy, I know to delete it, but maybe other people don't know that. So that's what they're trying to like clamp down on. So this presentation will be really helpful in sharing some of the information on scams. So I would highly recommend that if you have anybody that you think might benefit, that you go to that presentation on the 24th. There will be like a set time that we present it, but the information will be available all day from 10 to 2, so. But I'm happy to try to answer questions if anybody has any. Sorry, I know that was a lot of information fast.
I've got one. What is the law about these Sauron motorbikes that the young kids, like, 12, 13, 14 are riding all over town, as well as the electric scooters that, I mean, some of these things go 40 miles an hour. And I don't know if they're legal. Are they street legal? What, I mean, do you see it ever as an issue in some of the neighborhoods?
Yeah, I think it all depends on like the CCs of the motors.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with what they're hiding, but I can find out.
I'm just wondering because, sometimes when you go, I mean, they zoom all
Oh,
over
it's
the.
terrible. I saw one kid riding, yesterday down Versus Way on the sidewalk,
Yeah,
and people can't see them coming 30 miles an hour down the sidewalk, right? Because there was a car pulling out of Franklin, and I thought, probably gonna end badly.
and then one more quick question. You're never gonna do photo enforcement on a highway where someone would get caught like twice. I'm just kidding. I got caught in Arizona twice.
I got caught in Washington.
Did you really?
Because I'm like notoriously the slowest driver. I wrote back to them and said, you gotta be kidding. Because I was lost and I drive like 50 on the highway and my kids are always like smacking me saying, can you hurry up? There's a line behind you.
They sent a picture of me driving with my terrified husband sitting next to me.
There's no, actually, I got asked that this weekend. We don't have, in Massachusetts, we
You can't
see
do
the pictures.
Right.
Because, somebody asked me, they said that they ran the light at Chick-fil-A at Independence.
Yeah.
And Enterprise and 152. And, they asked if they were gonna get a ticket.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. It's awesome.
I have a question about, do you go into the schools, and my kids younger, they're older now, they're in their 40s. They used to have the, say no,
Oh, the dare.
program, do they do that anymore?
So we have, school resource officers, 2 at the high school, 1 at the intermediate school, and then we have adopt a school officers at all the other schools. So they're going in there. Some of them are running like junior police academies. They're in there for lunch, activities, all kinds of things like that. There isn't like a formal, anti-drug campaign right now. There really isn't anything.
That they have to attend,
No, there isn't anything like that, but
but they need to bring that back.
yeah, I think, I don't know if they found that it was successful or not.
Yeah.
But there are police officers in the schools.
I want to apologize for going through that light at Chick-fil-A.
No. Watching my dog with that.
And does Barnstable have an issue with squatters?
Good question.
Squatters.
Not really with squatters, no. We don't have like vacant. In the past, I know we have had houses where people would go and stay in inclement weather, because I used to work in the community impact unit. But it was mostly like homeless people seeking shelter, and then when the weather broke, they would leave, but we don't really have problems. Are you talking about like tenants who overstay and then?
Or just people who take
Seasonal,
over.
like,
the house.
there's a lot of people that are seasonal. and
Yeah.
Empty homes or break-ins with those empty homes or.
Not really, no. If anything, it's gonna be homeless people going into a building that's empty in the inclement weather, and then they don't stay.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on what is the most difficult, problem you have with stopping the drugs coming onto the Cape or drug distribution? I mean, you sort of said, well, you're always finding ways around it or something. I mean,
So
where is the problem that you can't stop all these drugs?
the drugs, what we see are, street level dealers here, And when you are able to, like intercept a street level transaction, the goal is always to find out where did you get what you're selling and can we work our way up the chain? So we're constantly trying to work our way up the chain and find out if somebody's selling, you know, an ounce or a gram, can we get to the person that you bought it from? To go, but there's multi levels of these distribution chains. So if you're going up the chain, every single time we are able to get far enough up the chain that you feel like you've made an impact and you've sort of, you know, stopped the bleeding, somebody else, whenever there's a vacuum, someone else fills the void. And it's happened, I mean, I've been here for 24 years. There is always somebody else waiting in the wings to fill the void, and it's next to impossible to stop it. And that's because some of these people are using, you know, kids under 12 years old to run their drugs for them. And when that happens, they can't be charged, right? They're too young to be charged with the crime. So they're not gonna get charged now, but 3 or 4 years from now, you know, they're gonna start selling stuff themselves. And then, you know, 5 years after that, they're that far, much farther up the chain. So it's just starting younger and younger, and they're becoming more and more skilled at it and more adept. And there's with the option of electronic devices, there's just this other, it's sort of this, things are much less traceable. You know, you're not doing a hand-to-hand sale necessarily. You might be picking something up, but you're not maybe transacting cash. There's all kinds of things that make these sales much more difficult. So we're still in the game. We're still using informants. We're still intercepting buys, but every time you feel like you're working your way up the chain to try to stop it, there's somebody else right there to fill the void, and it doesn't take long. You might find that there's a respite for a couple of months, but pretty soon there's someone else right there filling that spot. And it happens every single time. So you really, it's frustrating because you feel like you're not making any significant progress in eradicating it.
How many drugs are coming onto the Cape, not over the bridge?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Maybe they come, boat, plane,
Yeah, I don't know.
any percentage?
I don't know. Because mostly what we're seeing and what we're dealing with are using the plate readers and getting people coming over in vehicles.
So when you have a 12-year-old like that, you bring their parents in. To the police station. No, I really am
Yes,
serious.
I mean,
They need to be brought in.
I understand that. It's just that a lot of those kids don't have very engaged parents.
I remember an incident, my daughter was in, she's now 38, but she was in high school, and the police officer didn't want to really report that her pocketbook was stolen. And I think it's because they didn't want to affect their numbers. And I insisted and told my brother was a policeman in Plymouth, and believe me, you're gonna report it. Because when someone comes in that school with that pocketbook, it's very unique. I got it out in a very unique place. And she would know. And I had told her to tell the police officer. So he did. And at that time, they were leaving the door open to the girls' dressing room there because their kids were coming in the back door.
Yeah.
And I said, I want that closed too, and I demanded. So I made him write it all up.
Yeah.
And sure enough, someone came with that pocketbook. And so, of course, I wanted him to bring her parents in. And I wanted it to be followed up, and I wanted charges. And he didn't want to do it. And I said, listen, if it was my daughter that stole it, you would be writing her up. So I insist. And then they have to bring the parents into the police station, and hopefully that turned her around because they had accountability. And so this is where I feel about the school system.
Yeah.
About the 12-year-olds, that there has to be something
Well, I will say,
in effect.
in general, and we have no problem doing that at all, and we do it, we have a good relationship with the community, we're out there all the time, and we would certainly address the parents. I think the response you get from parents now is wildly different than what you got 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30, it's just a different time. I mean, my poor kids grew up with me saying, what did you do now? You know, I know I grew up with that, but most parents now are like, don't come near my kid, they didn't do anything wrong, and it's, you know, and I don't want to say most, but there's plenty that are like that, so it's a very different dynamic. But we certainly do our best to make sure that the kids are accountable, because even though criminally we can't do anything, the school can do things administratively, we do work really well with the school. And there's diversion programs, and there's all sorts of support systems in place in the school to address that behavior, so we do work well with the school. It's just that criminally, our hands are tied.
How many resource officers are there?
So we have, there's 4 school resource officers, and we have, a lot of adoptable officers, so
Yeah.
one in every other school.
Yeah.
Good,
Getting back to traffic.
yep.
Yep, it's me. Is there any way that the patrol, people, whatever, can they not stay at the water department and come close to the town? To catch people either going to the drop lines, crosswalks, even if they hang out a little bit at the church there. At the church, yeah, even if it's just like one like the person or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you have specific concerns, I would definitely urge you to go in and fill out the
I
form.
have talked to Troy
Yeah,
when he was out, like.
Yeah. but I can ask them, I can certainly ask them, but I think if they have like a written, like a written concern, they'll definitely address it. Especially if it's just like an entire area that you feel being neglected because people aren't coming close enough into the village.
Main Street, yeah.
Just let me know where the speed traps are, which.
Well, that's the thing, we do a lot of traffic enforcement, and then people say, well, we don't want you to stop us.
You mentioned you have a complete administration now.
Yes.
What's the status of recruitment at the officer level? I know the department recently got off of the civil service system, so that's supposed to help you, but how many vacancies do you have, and how's it going in terms of filling them?
So we have 14 vacancies with 2 pending retirements, so we'll be at 16 vacancies probably within the next couple of months.
Out of how many? 16 out of 200?
Our authorized strength is 120.
Oh, that's
We
over
do-
10%.
We do have 4 officers away on deployment right now, and those are 1-year deployments, so that really was a significant depletion. You don't often see that you get that many at once or that many for that duration of time, so that was a really significant hit for us. When you add that with the vacancies, and then we have a few people out on injuries, like people that have lifelong rehabs from surgeries. So our overall staffing, we're down about 22 to 23 people that are not presently working, which has really impacted our ability to staff shifts. It's a lot of forced overtime, and it's tough in the summer because people get very burned out, but when that vote went through and we were able to advertise for positions without that civil service process, we had almost 120 people after one posting within 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we just gave out 10 conditional offers last night.
Nice.
So we're hoping that we can get some of these people into the September or October police academies, because Plymouth starts in September and the East Falmouth Academy starts in October. So it's been tremendous, and it'll be great for us. I think 4 of those or 3 of those were lateral transfers, so they won't even have to go to the academy, and that would be like immediate relief once we get through the backgrounds.
Yeah.
So that was a really significant change for us, and if we can fill 10 spots, it would be great.
Thank you for asking.
It was a big change.
When a person is apprehended by a policeman, that in possession of powder, that drug, is it a good idea to send for analysis?
So we do have a True Narc machine at the station where we can test it there, but oftentimes we also end up sending it out. So, and that does sometimes result in some delays, but the True Narc machine can test for us. It's just that for court certification, oftentimes we also have to get an analysis done by the state.
The reason I brought this question up was, there's another substance called carfentanil.
Carfentanil, very dangerous.
But more 1,000 times more potent than fentanyl.
Yes,
And it's so little, and it's only exclusively used as, in animals
Yes.
for examination.
yes, it's very dangerous. So, that's one of the reasons, we've been very fortunate here. We haven't had any canines exposed to fentanyl. But I know that there have been, dogs in other agencies in other parts of the country that have not died from fentanyl exposure. And I know carfentanil is something that's like incredibly dangerous. It's more dangerous than fentanyl. So we've been fortunate here. But, we try to treat everything very cautiously. That's why, we used to use the packets where you would take some of the substance and test it. Nobody opens anything, nobody touches anything. The True Narc machine is a laser that can read whatever the substance is. So there's nobody touches it, but we also end up sending things out to the state.
One of the most uncomfortable situations that came up on the policeman who remained nameless, when he was approaching the person, the door open, he himself felt very dizzy because of the spewing of the powder, which is present in a free form in the body.
It's extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
Have you seen an increase in any violent crime in Hyannis? In particular, over the past 10 years? Is it increased? Is it about the same? Is it decreased? What's your view of the nature of the crime that you see in the village of Hyannis now?
I think it's pretty consistent over 10 years. I'd say it's pretty consistent. I think it definitely has peaks and valleys. I think 10 years might go back to when we had the street crime unit, which was purposely put in place because there was a real spike in violence. But once that unit was in place and that was tamped down, I think it's been pretty consistent. You certainly have some more urban type issues in Hyannis. You've got a different population. You've got the hospital, you've got the airport, you've got, the businesses, the mall. So it attracts a different population. And you've got a number of social service agencies there. You have the shelter there. So it's a different scene in Hyannis. But I think violence wise, I would say it's pretty consistent. I think it has its share of violent incidents, but we consistently, as a town, end up in the same place across the state year after year. So I don't think anything really significantly has changed.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
With crimes that you arrest people for, et cetera, how do you find, I don't know exactly which courts they wind up at, but how is the judiciary that you deal with? Are they backing you up? Are they getting people who should be off the street, or do you find that they're really not backing you up and they're putting people right back on the street? It's frustrating, your policeman.
Yeah.
Let's call putting you on the spot.
Yeah. It can be frustrating at times. Absolutely, it can be frustrating. I think we have a great relationship with the district attorney's office. I think though that we look at things from our perspective, which is, you know, maybe an officer was just in a foot pursuit, maybe an officer was just in a fight, maybe we've dealt with this person, you know, 10 times before, maybe they haven't all amounted to an arrest. I think the court is looking at things from potentially a different perspective, so I can't stand here and say, like, supported or not supported. I can just say that I don't think we always agree on the outcome, but I think
You must be able to say neutral, good, or bad.
I'm not going to say that.
Well, you should let people know, so that in some ways we might be able to.
There really isn't a whole lot of, you know, we were just discussing today when there's not a lot of opportunity for change in that regard. You know, you work closely with the DA's office. The DA's office fights for you for your cases, and they do a good job. But at the end of the day, when a judge gets appointed and they're there for life, they're there. So you try to put forth your most solid, watertight case that you can and do your best job that you can. And you have to recognize that you have to control what you can control, which is the strength of your case, your integrity, protect your reputation, protect the community, and you know, to be angry over something that you have no control over, which is who's sitting on the bench, doesn't accomplish anything. So you really have to, you know, maintain your professionalism and your integrity and work with what you have. And that's what works for us. So.
Well, I've lived here for 45 years, and I've always thought the police department over those 45 years has been wonderful, and with many, many, many wonderful officers.
We're very lucky.
Yeah, I feel extremely grateful for the quality of the people that we have working for our agency, and it's nice because everybody brings with them something different, and everybody brings different life experience, different areas of expertise, different interests, and I really appreciate that in everybody, and I think that you know, we have so many specialties. People can really find their area in which to shine, and I think that that's one of the nicest things about our police department. I think is why people want to work here. The diversity in the villages means everybody finds something that they enjoy, you know, and some place that they like to be. So I think it really provides a great opportunity for everybody. Policing is super challenging. It's very different than when I started in the late 90s. So I've seen it evolve really quickly over the past 5 or 6 years, especially since the post commission. And I think if anything, you know, police officers who historically don't like change, I think we've had change thrown at us, and I think we've all learned to adapt and accept things. And I think people here have done it pretty gracefully, so I'm really proud of everybody.
If I have a question. Several years ago, one of my grandsons was at, I think it's the Horseman Charter School. It was a charter school, it's not a charter school anymore. And I bid on riding with an officer at night for a fundraiser. I never redeemed it. Do you think I could still redeem it?
So we actually suspended our ride-alongs because people were so, we had ride-alongs when we had the Citizens Police Academy. And like I said before, our staffing was so limited, people were so burned out because they were getting forced to work extra shifts. I do hope that once we're back up closer to full staffing, that we can resume it again, because I think people love doing ride-alongs. But it's just, you know, we also had for a while a full-time clinician who was responding with officers on calls. So when you add the Citizens Police Academy, new officers getting hired, riding with officers as, part of field training. And then, like all of these and the clinician, all these things together with them and the forced overtime, people were just really fried. So I felt in order to just preserve people's well-being, it was better to pause that program, but I do hope we reinitiate it again, because I think it does so much for, it gives the officers an opportunity to share their experience, but also gives people in the community a chance to see what we do right from the front seat of the car, because it's very different. I think there's a lot of problem solving, there's a lot of social work, a lot of social work. We deal with a lot of mental health issues. Yeah, so it's interesting.
Will we see the body cam on YouTube, the body cam videos on YouTube? There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We don't post them on YouTube, but I know that
there are groups that do.
somebody that follows us does post some of them on YouTube.
Some of the body cam videos, interesting.
Some of his,
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, okay.
but we don't post our body camera
No.
on YouTube.
Another thing we did was, we got the fire truck came and picked them up and took to school one day.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Chief?
If you get back to full staff, you ever thought about bringing back summer officers?
So because of the post commission, which is the Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission that was implemented with police reform back in 2020, it's not something that we would be doing because of the training standards. So people have to attend a full-time academy. So you can't do the full-time academy and then have people work for the summer. It just doesn't work. So that's why we have our community service officers sort of instead of them. And why we retain our retirees as special officers to give details. But, the summer officers are, I have to say, I think the summer officers got about 2 weeks of instruction.
Yeah.
And
How much did you get, Don?
got handed what? You got handed, you worked as a summer officer, so you got handed a gun and a badge and told like not to get into trouble and. Good luck. Those days are over.
Right there?
So, yeah, we have a lot of people that worked this summer still working for us now, and that. Yeah, it would be great, but it's nobody has summer officers.
To help with the staffing during the summer.
That's why we use our community service officers. So they're great. And because we're out of civil service now, we can actually hire our own community service officers. What we were doing, we were finding is that we were training these amazing kids as police officers for other police departments, because other PDs were snapping them up and we couldn't get them because they had to take the civil service test and then wait forever to go through our hiring process. So now we can hire our own, which is great. We have actually 2 in the hiring process right now. Good.
Chief Challies, thank you very much for excellent. I want to say the OVA board and the citizens of Osterville, we're grateful for what the Barnstable Police Department does, and commend you for running an excellent department. And again, what you presented tonight, the stuff that goes on that some people don't know about, but it's refreshing to hear that. So
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And again, I truly apologize for, I guess if I come here tomorrow, nobody's hanging here. But I really apologize for that.
Just in time. Yeah, that worked out great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Another public comment.
I just want to say that, just to follow up on something that Gail mentioned, that Chosen Bell, our recipient of the scholarship, wrote a very nice thank you note to me, and thanking the board and thanking the both associations for the scholarship. And I thought that was very, very nice. It was a beautifully written letter too, as you might expect. So I wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Great.
Smart kid.
Have we sent him his check yet?
I'll just check on that. Maybe I'll find out. Yeah.
Yeah, we need his tuition bill.
Yeah, I think we can. I'll find out.
I don't think we have.
So I'll find out. Okay, motion to adjourn. Thank you all.